Former NFL wide receiver Antonio Brown now wanted for attempted murder after a Miami shooting last month. We've got our hands on the arrest warrant, so we're breaking down all the juicy details. Plus, we've got a defense attorney expert straight from Miami to tell us where Brown stands right now. This is Scandal, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Gillespie. Things not looking too good for Antonio Brown. Almost a month after that now infamous shooting, which, by the way, we have the viral videos and we will show them to you, don't you worry. Almost a month later, he's now up against an attempted murder charge. Okay, so here's what you can expect from today's episode of Scandal. We're gonna break down that arrest warrant. We're gonna go through the cell phone video, hear some of the witness statements, have a couple of throwback videos, and hear Antonio Brown's side of the story for himself. So let's begin with the basics. Who's our guy? Antonio Brown, 36 years old, and is mostly known as a wide receiver. He played 12 seasons in the NFL, and a couple of teams to list: the Steelers, the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Buccaneers. So he's known for all of that, his football stuff, but also a couple of other run-ins with the law. Today isn't actually the first time we're reporting on him. So let's begin with a TBT to 2022. We're taking a closer look at the case of current wide receiver free agent Antonio Brown, who at the time of this recording is still on the run from police. Ironically, at the time of this recording in 2025, he's also on the run from police. That's why we're doing this episode. There's a warrant out for his arrest. So I guess a throwback there. We're seeing both things now. A couple other things I want to add. Number one, who am I to think that I could host Sidebar? I mean, Jesse Weber, hello. I look like Edward Furlong from Terminator 2 in that clip. Wild. Number two, I absolutely did not write that. Talking about him being a free agent, I never would have thought of that. We've got to give a shout out to our head of sales and after hours host, Sam Goldberg. He's the one who wrote all of that. So a lot happening there. That was way back in 2022, though. He was barricaded into his home in Florida literally for hours. After a standoff with police, there was apparently a domestic violence situation. So you may remember him from all of that. And we actually reported on that body cam too. Here's a clip.
I'm not letting over there. If she want to pick the lot, tell her pick the lot, man. I'm not letting her in. Ain't nothing here. I told you. What you gonna do?
So how did that case end? Well, we reported on that also. The woman accusing Brown of domestic violence later called for all charges against him to be dropped. Okay, sorry. It's just so fun to show some of the retro clips, and that background shows those clips are ancient. I looked blue. On to today. Antonio Brown, he's still on the run at the time of this recording, but we do have that arrest warrant that we promised. So here's what happened. I'm taking you back now to May 16th. We're in Miami, the Little Haiti neighborhood, and there was a celebrity boxing event. It was hosted by streamer Aiden Ross. So it's about 11:56 p.m. now, and officers get a call for shots fired. So they're dispatched to this area. A Florida Highway Patrol officer gets there, and right away, multiple people come up to him and are like, hey, we've heard gunshots, they're outside, and there's actually video of all of this too that has been circulating for almost a month at this point, so let's show you some.
Yo! Oh, not over here, not over here, not over here! No!
Bro, hold up, bro.
I just got smushed! Someone clip that, please!
Now, this part is straight from the arrest warrant. Lieutenant Camacho exited the building and observed Mr. Brown engaged in a physical altercation with an unidentified male in front of 221 Northeast 67th Street. Lieutenant Camacho issued loud verbal commands for both individuals to stop, which they did. Mr. Brown then began walking toward the parking lot of the building. Lieutenant Camacho stated that several patrons from the event identified Mr. Brown as the shooter and informed him that Mr. Brown was armed. Mr. Brown was detained in the parking lot and patted down for officer safety. At the time of detention, Mr. Brown was not armed. So as far as that detention, him being put in handcuffs, there's actually video of that too that circulated. So here's a clip.
Hey, don't let no one else in the gate. Hey, don't mind.
You got shot?
According to the arrest report, there were no victims on the scene, but they did find 2 spent shell casings and an empty firearm holster, and the clip had been ripped off. Back to the report. Due to the absence of identified victims at the time, Mr. Brown was released. Now, investigators after this started collecting videos, and eventually they started interviewing people, including the victim, a man by the name of Zulkarnain Kwame Nantambo. He told investigators that at first Brown is the one who hit him with a closed fist, so, punched him. Then this fight began and others started attacking Nantambo. The fight continued briefly until several security staff members, including Eric Bauer, herein referred to as Mr. Bauer, intervened. Mr. Nantambo was then seen walking away from Mr. Brown and exiting the enclosed parking area. Mr. Brown was observed struggling with Mr. Bauer around and behind a parked white SUV. As Mr. Brown and Mr. Bauer get to the driver's side of the SUV, Mr. Brown begins to grab and pull on the right hip of Mr. Bauer. Mr. Brown appears to retrieve a black firearm from the right hip area of Mr. Bauer. Mr. Brown, at this point, holding the firearm with his left hand, started to run out of the enclosed parking area in the same direction that Mr. Nantambo exited. Cell phone video obtained from social media showed Mr. Brown with a firearm in his hand advancing toward Mr. Nantambo on the outside sidewalk. The video captures 2 shots which occur as Mr. Brown is within several feet of Mr. Nantambo. The video also captures Mr. Nantambo ducking after the first shot is heard. Now again, detectives spoke to Nantambo and he said, "We got in this verbal spat, this argument. Then Brown punches me and then other people start to hit me also." As he was exiting the building, he noticed Mr. Brown began to run toward him with a firearm in his hands. Mr. Nantambo stated Mr. Brown proceeded to shoot at him, possibly grazing him in the neck, placing him in fear for his life. As Mr. Brown advanced on Mr. Nantambo, they got into a struggle over the firearm and ended up on the ground. When police arrived, Mr. Brown walked away, concealing the firearm with a dark-colored garment. While officers directed their attention to Mr. Brown, Mr. Nantambo left the scene and went to Ventura Hospital to treat his injuries. We've got to be fair here, though. We talked about everything in the arrest report, what this victim, Mr. Nantambo, says happened, but we've got to tell both sides. So what does Antonio Brown have to say? Well, one day after the incident, he actually tweeted. So let's pull that up. He says, regarding the boxing event that happened last night, "I was jumped by multiple individuals who tried to steal my jewelry and cause physical harm to me, contrary to some video circulating. Police temporarily detained me until they received my side of the story and then released me. I went home that night and was not arrested. I will be talking to my legal counsel and attorneys on pressing charges on the individuals that jumped me. I will keep you all posted step by step on the process. Thank you for the support and love. #AB, #84, and then a football emoji, because why not? Now, later he talked more about all of this, actually on Aiden Ross's stream. Here's some of what he said. He said, "The CTE, I blacked out. I don't know what happened. I blacked out, Aiden. I ain't gonna lie. Hey, one of them N-words. I don't know whether they was jumping or helping. I slammed that N-word again and kicked him with this stuff." Now that's odd to me, talking about CTE, because back in 2022, he talked about CTE also, and this was on the Full Send podcast. Here's what he said. "CTE, you can't scan a person for CTE till they're dead, first off. So how are you going to say a player that's living in real time, who's putting up real stats, who's standing for real purposes, who's doing real things, got CTE? Interesting. Who knows? But what I care about right now is this attempted murder allegation. So let's hit up our guest for some answers. All right, we've got our guest on today from Miami-based attorney, criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla. Thank you for coming on, Mauricio, to talk about something kind of wild. And okay, I'll just ask from the start. It's June 13th, Friday the 13th, and this incident happened like a month ago, way back in May. So why would it take so long for an arrest warrant?
Because the law enforcement is doing their investigations, talking to people, So they wanted to, and when they're dealing with a celebrity, when they want to charge them, they want to make sure that they got all their ducks in a row because they know that he's going to get a defense attorney of the highest caliber. So, and also based on what I read in the arrest report, this wasn't a situation where people were being honest from the get go. I think they had to figure it out and get video evidence. So once they don't make an arrest right there on the spot, then they're just taking their time to make sure that they have a solid case before they go and arrest them.
Okay, so that's my question about not having an arrest on the spot because there were officers, law enforcement that were there, and people were pointing to him and saying, that guy, Antonio Brown, he's the one who was firing the gun. He's the one who did it. But then when they patted him down, he didn't have a weapon on him. So does that work in his favor?
Yeah, that works in his favor. However, when I read the arrest report, it says that there's a video where it shows him struggling with the
Yeah.
guy, taking a gun from his holster, shooting at him. So the problem is, first of all, did I read it right, or was he wearing green pants, a green shirt, and a green army helmet? That's
It's
crazy. Like, so the
I
guy
know
went,
that's
yeah,
wild.
that guy went dressed as GI Joe, and then all of a sudden he's at a kickboxing event or a boxing event. He gets into a fight, which is like reminiscent of when Tupac got into a fight after a Tyson, after a Tyson fight. So, apparently he was being aggressive, got the gun. The problem is that yeah, people may have been pointing at him and telling him that he was shooting, but for the police at that time, if he didn't have a weapon, it may have been insufficient for probable cause at that time, even if they had people saying that.
Okay, so you're right. I mean, it checks out if police officers pat him down, he doesn't have a weapon. Okay, we have to excuse him. But you are right about the fact that we have now the security video, the cell phone video of it all. And video, I don't want to say video doesn't lie because we know that people can edit stuff, but video is pretty good for prosecutors now to bring these charges and if it were to go to trial. So, what do you make of the video that's been out there?
Well, listen, yeah, videos. I mean, when you say that they can be edited, yeah, they can. But when they use forensic experts, it's pretty easy for them to determine whether or not it's been edited or not. So yeah, listen, video is good evidence. Unfortunately or unfortunately, mostly in my case is unfortunately because every single murder that I got to deal with nowadays, I'm dealing with video. Almost every single big case that I have has some sort of video evidence. So it's something that you have to deal with. The problem is that if the video shows that you were inconsistent in your statements to law enforcement, then you're a liar. And then the prosecution is going to say, you can't believe anything he says because he's a liar. And then if his defense is, I was defending myself because this guy was being aggressive, well, then why did you just tell the police? Because you wanted to get away with something. You wanted to, be more streets about it. And you wanted to get your friend to hide the gun. And you wanted to, lie to the police. Now you're in a really bad position. And this is consistent with a lot of people that come forward with self-defense after the fact. Self-defense works, but you got to say it right there on the spot. And you got to be honest with the police. Because if not, the prosecution is going to say, we're not going to believe a word you're saying because you tried to pull one over on law enforcement.
And you're right, because he has tweeted, we'll feature it in this episode. He tweeted about how there was an altercation. I was protecting myself. It was self defense. But then going to what you were just saying, if it was self defense, why aren't you straight up with the police at the time? So
Right.
I guess that begs the question, what could his defense be then?
His defense is going to be some sort of self-defense that if he didn't come clean with the police, because for sure he didn't tell the police that he shot at him at that moment. For sure, because if not, then they would have told him, okay, well, let's come down to the police station. We're going to do, testing on your hands to see if you have gunpowder residue and things of that nature. So I doubt that he told the police that he fired that weapon. If he didn't, he's going to have an issue, and then the police are going to have to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and now get ready for all the text messages between him and his friends, all the text messages between him and everybody, people on social media. That's the next phase of the discovery, is you're going to find how much incriminating stuff he may have said to all of his friends after the fact. Because nowadays, in every single case, everybody has to run to their phones to immediately start texting and tweeting and texting and tweeting. And then that's evidence. And people consistently do it, even though in every single case in the media, it comes forward that law enforcement is using this. People still can't stay away from their phones.
I mean, they're addicting. I have mine right here, but I'm not
Yeah.
texting about being involved in an
Yeah, me
attempted
me
murder.
too, but we're not committing crimes at the moment, you know? Yeah.
Exactly, at the
So,
moment.
yeah.
But, I mean, I guess going to all of that, like, his texts and what he's doing, he's actually been outspoken about all of this on, like, public forums, and this kind of leads into my next question. So he played in the NFL for more than a decade. The man was involved in, a physical sport. He had previously talked about CTE and said publicly, "Okay, this cannot be diagnosed until after the person has died, so we don't know about CTE with me." Now, after this incident that happens in May, he goes out and says, "I have CTE. I blacked out. I don't know what happened." So that's on the record. Is that something prosecutors would point to?
Yeah, of course. They're gonna be like, okay, so first of all, you're going out on social media forums saying what happened, and then you're publicly saying that you blacked out. So that's inconsistent. So like when something bad happens to you and you come out publicly and make a declaration, now the prosecution has your statement on this day on social media, your statement on this day on social media, instead of the way it should be, where you don't talk, you get a lawyer, and then that's it. They basically they all they have is you maintaining your right to remain silent, and then them trying to prosecute you. They have multiple versions of the event, and now with him they have multiple versions of the event, and then all of a sudden I have amnesia, I can't remember, I have CTE. So the prosecution could say, no, what you have is called consciousness of guilt, and you're trying to get out of what you did. So all of a sudden, lo and behold, I have a blackout, I have CTE.
I wonder about his defense though, because we do know that like physically hitting your head, concussions, things like that can affect you. It can lead to lapses in memory or loss. Like there's so much going on with CT. We've seen other cases. So even though prosecutors could be like, consciousness of guilt, you say, but defense attorneys, could they be like, no, wait, he actually has this. Here's an expert.
Right. Well, I mean, it's like the Aaron Hernandez. I mean, I heard that when they finally, took his brain out after he died, that he had the worst case of CTE that they had ever seen. But it's still, at the end of the day, first of all, they have to take your brain out to prove that, right? So
Right.
as far as I know, you're not going to be able to get expert testimony to specifically say that you have CTE to the level needed to excuse your actions at trial. So then you're stuck with what you did. Yeah, Aaron Hernandez had the worst case of CTE that they had ever seen, but he was out there killing people flagrantly and leaving a trail of evidence. So, I mean, what are we going to do? Acquit people? No, for you to use CTE as a valid defense in a case as serious as an attempted murder or a murder, you're going to have to give expert testimony that you literally have it at that time. And if the only way that they can prove that is by popping your brain out of your skull, I don't think he's going to have a problem.
It's so wild because I was just listening to a podcast about CTE. So today, when I was researching this case and he says he has it, self diagnosis, I was like, we can't do that though. I just listened, like, experts can't do it. Like you said, you got to pop out the brain to take a
Right.
look.
Right.
So that'll be interesting. Another interesting aspect of all of this is it's in Florida. And you're the expert to talk about with this because Florida is kind of notorious or famous, infamous, whatever you want to say, about gun laws. And so we have it there. He's saying, again, this is his defense, that it was sort of, self defense. What is going on there with like the gun laws in Florida? Like if
I
it
think
was
I think
self
more I
defense.
think more what you're referring to is the stand your ground. Like, okay, in Florida now you can have a gun concealed and you don't even need a license. But I think what you're talking about is the stand your ground, where you don't have to retreat if someone's coming at you, and you could defend yourself. The issue with that is when I read the arrest report, and I did it quickly before this interview, but I think it said there that he rushed him, he went after him, right?
Mhm.
So there's a thin line between defending yourself and attacking somebody, and usually if you're chasing somebody, especially with a weapon, you stop being the defender and you start being the aggressor, right? So that's something that the video could show. You're not allowed to be chasing somebody and firing at them and then try and say that you were standing your ground and use self-defense to defend yourself.
And is there a difference too between a physical altercation, which can be bad? I mean, you can get seriously injured or even killed from being physically attacked, like, with your hands. But is there something to be said from going from punches and pushing and that to bringing out a gun? Then is that the aggressor?
Yes. Okay. Self-defense should be you meet force with equal force, right? Which was my issue with the Trayvon case, because that guy shot that kid and that kid was unarmed and he shot him, I would have convicted him in 3 seconds flat. But they acquitted him. The issue with it is, yeah, you have an issue if someone slaps you in the face and you blast them with a double barrel shotgun. That is not, you're not meeting force with equal force. So I think in the Trayvon case, he made the excuse that he hit his head against the pavement, he was not in his right mind. But in this case, I think he's going to have an issue with. I guess what he's going to say is, it was in the heat of the moment. I took the gun out of his holster, right? But then if you took the gun out of his holster, you're by the very explanation that you're giving, the gun was never in his hand. You know what I mean? Like, just because someone has a gun on them doesn't mean that you have the right to pull it from them and shoot them, right? So that's an issue that he's going to have. It seems to me, from if what the A form is saying, if what the arrest report is saying is true, which I'm not in the business of believing what arrest reports say. For the record, I'm a criminal defense attorney. But if it is true and he's the one that took the gun out, well, then the gun was never being used against you. You're allowed to fight somebody one-on-one with your hands, and just because you have a gun on you doesn't mean that the guy you're fighting has the right to pull it from you and shoot you with it.
And something we talked about too, but what is so useful in this case, and like you said, pretty much every case we cover now, is that we have cell phone video or security camera video. And we've already seen some circulating over the past month or so about all of this. But this is like an event. This wasn't a one-off, okay, we have one Ring camera video in the middle of nowhere. We're at an event where people, every single person, we already brought out our phones today. Every single person has their phone with them, So is it possible there could be way more video that could go and show, okay, yes, he had the gun at this point, he didn't at this point, that all of these investigators are going to comb through and really, amp up their case?
Yes, and you're going to see that they're going to have probably voluminous video, voluminous witnesses. Then they're going to get all the witnesses or the people that were in his party, right? The people that went there. I'm sure he went there with a crew of guys. They're going to get all those guys' text messages, texting back and forth. They're going to get their location services. They're going to figure out where they went. They're going to try and figure out where's the gun, right? Because I think the gun is yet to be found. I don't think the A form, the arrest report said where the gun was. So yeah, they're going to try and piece it all together, and it's going to be. I'm curious to see what his defense is going to be, and I'm curious to see how it pans out. Does he already have an attorney?
And just for our viewers, at the time of this interview that it's recording, we have not had an arrest yet. We just
Okay.
have the arrest form. So that's kind of what we're going off of. I'm kind of hoping by the time that this is posted that we'll be arrested and we'll have more info, but we wanted to get this out right away. So there are a lot of details like that. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know the answer to it.
Yeah,
So
and
it'll
then
be
whether or not the victim is going to continue to be cooperative, right? Because that's another thing that you see in these cases with celebrities, where all of a sudden the victim's like, no, you know what? I don't want to continue for whatever reason.
And I did see a report from the Washington Post that I believe, so today's the 13th, and I believe a judge signed off on the 11th. So then yesterday was the 12th, and I saw this report from the Washington Post that they weren't able to get in contact with him yet. And so I'm wondering what that's about. Was he
Yeah,
running? Does he should know about
yeah.
this? What's going on there?
Listen, he for sure has an attorney already working on it from the minute that it happened. They probably reached out to the attorney and told him, "Hey, we want your guy to turn yourself in," and then they called him and he's on vacation, or he wants a day or two before getting arrested. Who knows? But listen, a guy like him, where's he going to run to? I mean, everybody knows who you are. Like, this is not a case where that's part of being a celebrity. Like, it's great, but when you're charged with a crime, you really can't do anything but face the music because you can't go anywhere.
Right, you can't run. Everyone knows who you are. They know what you look like. They know your name. And I guess I wanted to ask too, again, has not been, arrested at this time, but he's up against attempted murder. So what does that hold in Florida? How much time, if this guy's convicted, could he face in prison?
I mean, up to life, So I don't want to, I don't want to be misquoted here on what the possible maximum penalty is for attempted murder, but it's a serious first degree felony, and you're looking at a long time, you know. But they can give you up to life.
And I mean, we talk about attempted murder. Obviously, it's not as severe, but I feel like murder, number one, worst crime you could commit. Number two, attempted, because it seems as though according to the charge, you attempted to do it. I mean, it is pretty serious. So, as we're wrapping up, what do you expect in this case? I mean, we've talked about how there's a lot of evidence to go through. We've talked about, will the defendant cooperate? What will happen? What are your just inferences or guesses on
Well,
what will
I
happen?
think they're gonna probably do an investigation, and they're probably gonna put the screws to the people that were with them. They're probably gonna try and find out who got rid of the gun. Maybe they can put the screws to that person and be like, "Hey, listen, we won't prosecute you for tampering with evidence and things of that nature," and try and get somebody from his crew to testify against him. That would be, if I was a prosecutor, that's the angle that I would be trying to take. Um, and then also the prosecution, just because they filed attempted murder now, doesn't mean that that attempted murder will be the charge going through the process. At whatever time the state attorney's office can alter the actual charges to be something either lesser, um, or they can include charges like firing a weapon in public and things of that nature, because based on the A form, it looks like other crimes may have been committed, including lying to the police, destruction of evidence if you got rid of the gun, things of that nature. So the case is in its infancy. It's a little premature to be opining as to what would happen ultimately in the case. But just because they charge him right now with attempted murder doesn't mean that that's what the charge is going to be sticking forward, moving forward.
You're right. The case is in its infancy. We haven't even, at the time of this recording, had him arrested yet. So we've got a lot more episodes to do about this. For today, though, Mauricio, thank you for coming on with us
Thank
at
you so
such short
much.
notice and breaking it down. Like we said in the interview, there's a lot ahead in this case, so we'll see where it's going. And again, at the time of this recording, there has not been an arrest yet, so we'll keep you posted on updates as they come in. If you liked this video, make sure you subscribe to our channel. It's called Scandalous News. You'll get all the latest Scandal episodes right to your feed, and keep sending us messages too. Our email tip line is scandal@lawandcrime.com. Thanks for watching today's episode. I'm your host, Sierra Gillespie, and I'll see you next time.